The U.S. Supreme Court struck down part of Arizona's election laws this week. What does it mean for the state?
They kind of gave us the pathway as to how we would be able to do that. And that is, they really kind of recommended in the order that we go to the Federal Elections Assistance Commission and ask them to authorize Arizona's instructions to be put in to the state-by-state instructions that already exist.
And wildfire season is underway in Arizona. We'll look ahead at this season and back at a major fire. It's Arizona Week.
Production of Arizona Week is made possible in parts by a grant from the Stonewall Foundation and by the members of Arizona Public Media. Thank you for your continued support.
On Monday, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a ruling striking down Arizona's requirement that people who register to vote using a federal form must prove they are citizens. Joining us to talk about that ruling is Arizona Secretary of State Ken Bennett. Secretary, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be with you, Chris. Thank you.
This ruling to some people may be a bit confusing because it involves a federal form versus a state form, and now we have two sets of rules. Isn't that correct?
Well, we've been under that situation for about almost a year since the Ninth Circuit ruled that the state cannot ask for additional documentation to be submitted with the federal form. But they also allowed us to use the information that's provided by a voter when they fill out that form. And if they voluntarily provide their driver's license number or the last four digits of a social, and most of them do, by the way, then we are allowed and have been using that information to make sure that they are a citizen. And if we can confirm that with the information they have provided on the form, then they get registered immediately. The question was whether we can ask for additional information to be submitted beyond the form or attached to the form or asked for later. And while the court said that they weren't going to order us to be or allow us to do that by their order, they kind of gave us the pathway as to how we would be able to do that. And that is, they really kind of recommended in the order that we go to the Federal Elections Assistance Commission and ask them to authorize Arizona's instructions to be put in to the state-by-state instructions that already exist. And they even kind of strongly intimated in that ruling that that's where this permission should be granted, and they kind of said that it probably would be granted. And if we didn't, then we could come back and appeal to the court.
Now, we've asked that group for permission before in '04, not long after '04, when voters passed this. So we have to go back again.
Yes, but when we asked back then, there were 4 commissioners on the commission, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. They kind of deadlocked on a 2-2 vote and did not allow us to add those requirements as the voters had required. Since that time, just last year, this same Election Assistance Commission allowed the state of Louisiana to implement a new state law that they had that requires, in certain circumstances, additional information to be submitted by the voter along with the form. So the court was aware of that, and they kind of hinted or kind of said in the ruling that if the EAC, as it's called, the Election Assistance Commission, if the EAC allowed that for Louisiana, they probably would or should allow that for Arizona.
I understand possibly complicating this a little bit is the fact that the EAC right now has no members. So how do we get in front of them? Yeah.
Well, even though they don't have any members right now, that situation or condition has existed for almost 2.5 years. President Obama has not appointed any of the commissioners. And when Louisiana got their permission to ask for additional information last year, it was done so through the acting executive director of the EAC, who is still there. And so the letter that I sent the other day went to the acting director of the commission, even though there are no standing commissioners at this moment.
Obviously, we don't have an election right now, but people can still register to vote. While this works through the EAC, what kind of timetable are we looking at, and what does it do to our election process, if anything, right now?
Well, it doesn't really do too much at all because, as I mentioned, when the Ninth Circuit came out with their decision where they questioned whether Arizona could do this, we negotiated with the court at that time, almost a year ago, for the procedure that I just described for you, which is if the voter puts the driver's license number or the last four of their social on the federal form voluntarily, and most of them do, because the federal form asks for those numbers anyway, we can still use that to determine their eligibility to vote. So we'll continue to do what we've been doing for the last 11 months under agreement with the Ninth Circuit while we await the Election Assistance Commission's decision to allow those new instructions to be put in like they did for Louisiana.
This case dealt obviously directly with Arizona. Sometime in the coming days we'll get another voting ruling out of the Supreme Court dealing with the Voter Rights Act that also will deal with Arizona. Explain to our viewers, if you can, depending on what the court does, what that ruling will mean for Arizona.
Well, that ruling would, depending on which way they go, if they strike down the pre-clearance requirement that has been imposed on some states, including Arizona, for the past several decades, then Arizona and those other states would no longer, and the jurisdictions that conduct elections within our state, would no longer have to send every little possible change that they make in their voting procedures or changing boundaries of precincts or polling locations. All of those things have to, down to the minutest detail, have to be what's called pre-cleared by the Department of Justice for the states that are under that part of the law. If the court agrees that those situations that caused the need for that law way back in the 50s or 60s, I think it was, no longer exist, then Arizona and the counties and others that conduct elections in Arizona will no longer have to get the Federal Department of Justice's permission every time we make a slight change or a big change in our voting laws.
It sounds like, and granted I'm not an attorney, but these two cases could be tied in the sense that if the first case was a change to voting laws, it had to have been cleared by DOJ under the second case. Is that a correct read?
Well, every so often those two laws do intersect, and just about everything we do in elections in Arizona has to be pre-cleared by DOJ, but they're really separate in the sense that if the Election Assistance Commission allows us to put this new requirement in the instructions for the federal voter registration form in their packet like they did for Louisiana, then that would solve that problem whether or not the Supreme Court gets rid of the pre-clearance requirement in the other case.
All right, well, Mr. Secretary, thanks so much for coming in and explaining all of this in simple English instead of legal terms to our viewers.
I hope it was. Thank you very much, Chris.
Just days before the U.S. Supreme Court issued its ruling on Arizona's voter ID law, Attorney Vince Robigo called for a federal investigation into voter suppression during the last campaign season. He joins us now in the studio. Vince, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Christopher.
Explain, if you can, for our viewers exactly what the complaint is and who you filed it with.
Well, the complaint is about a number of different types of apparent efforts to suppress Latino voters here in Arizona in the 2012 election cycle. We had evidence both of election office conduct in Maricopa County, in Yuma County, and we also had evidence of outside political efforts with automated phone calls in Spanish that were designed to mislead Spanish-speaking voters with respect to their voting rights. So it was a combination of different factors. We have affidavits from 5 different individuals, some from Yuma County, some from Pima County, including an attorney and a former state legislator, about these various efforts that were designed to lower or suppress Latino voter turnout. So that's what I submitted to the U.S. Department of Justice and have asked for them to begin a formal investigation into these practices.
Now, I understand the wheels of justice move slowly. Have you heard back from them? Are they going to investigate, or do we not know yet?
Well, they have received the complaint. I did receive an acknowledgement that they had received my correspondence. Like I said, we provided them with about almost 50 pages of material, including these 5 affidavits sworn under penalty of perjury up in Maricopa County. We also provided evidence with respect to prior news articles about Latino voters being given official government documents with the election date that was in Spanish with the wrong date. But on the flip side, with the English version of the documents, they had the correct election date. So anybody who was receiving these documents were told to go vote on the wrong day. In Yuma County, we had Latino voters who, there were reports and affidavits sworn to this effect. They were Democratic voters who received Republican Party ballots, which is certainly designed to suppress turnout and did suppress it. Folks, it's an obstacle to voting, and we also had other practices, allegations and reports of uniformed sheriff officers asking Latino voters to sign the petitions of the Republican candidate for sheriff. Kind of a wide variety, and all these are, this is evidence sworn under oath, affidavits that were provided, and we're hopeful that they do take some sort of action and investigate this conduct.
If I remember back to the election, with particularly the Maricopa County issue and the dates, folks in the Maricopa County's voting office at the time said clerical error, and they appeared to make efforts to fix them, honest mistake. It doesn't sound like you believe that explanation necessarily.
Well, no. The facts speak for themselves. One instance, perhaps, but when you have multiple official documents, different kinds of documents, you had reports that went on air, media reports suggesting that it was a felony to help carry in a ballot for a volunteer to do that, and it took time and it took tremendous community response to force the election officials to issue correcting statements about those sorts of things. They were all designed in a way to suppress Latino voter turnout. As you recall, Sheriff Joe was facing a very viable candidate. There was tremendous community opposition to Sheriff Joe in the Latino community, and there were hundreds and hundreds of volunteers gathering ballots. So all these efforts now led to, of course, we saw what happened with the election, and we saw the community outrage about these various incidents, and then you saw the legislature in this last session change the law, now making it a crime for any political organization to have volunteers collecting ballots. So clearly there's a big political component to this, and they know that the community was out there and active and involved. And so these efforts are now legislative efforts which appear to be designed to suppress the involvement of the community or political organizations.
Now, we just spoke with Secretary of State Ken Bennett about this week's Supreme Court ruling on Arizona's voter ID law. How does that ruling, if at all, play into your complaint? And we still have one voting ruling that we're waiting on from the Supreme Court, which should come down in the next few days. How does all that play into your complaint?
Well, the recent Supreme Court ruling on the intertribal decision doesn't directly affect it, but what it does show evidence of legislative efforts that were designed to sort of restrict voting, registration for voting, excuse me. And so what the Supreme Court did in that case was said, no, Arizona, the federal form where you declare under penalty of perjury that you're able to vote and you're a citizen, that's good enough. Arizona, you can't go overboard and add additional requirements to the federal form. So it doesn't affect it per se, that decision, but it's just an example of what legislative efforts have been done to sort of restrict access to voting. The second case, which is coming down the pike, is whether or not Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act is going to remain federal law. My complaint in relation to that case coming down the pike shows that there are still instances of things that are happening that are restricting minority voters' ability to exercise the right to vote. Arizona's got a long history of discrimination and voter intimidation. That's why we are one of the states that is subject to federal review when we change our election laws. This complaint is just further evidence that should show folks like the Supreme Court, in fact, not so fast. This Section 5 should remain law. We need its protection in places like Arizona and elsewhere where you see these efforts to restrict voting.
All right, Vince, well, thanks so much for coming in and explaining this complaint to us.
Thank you very much.
We turn our attention now to fire season. Fire crews are battling the Dosi fire near Prescott. So far, the fire has burned more than 7,000 acres. The Dosi fire was human-caused. Investigators are still trying to determine what exactly happened. There are two other fires that began this week in Arizona. The Halfway Fire near the south rim of the Grand Canyon burned more than 200 acres, but is now officially contained. And the Thomas Fire in southern Arizona burned about 100 acres in an area known as Babakivari Peak. In all, a dozen fires have blackened the Arizona landscape so far this year. 10 years ago, The Aspen Fire destroyed hundreds of homes and businesses in the Catalina Mountains near Tucson. It also burned tens of thousands of acres of forest land. Even today, a decade later, it's still possible to see the scars from that fire. Georgia Davis takes us to Mount Lemmon, where the fire was centered, to see how the forest is recovering 10 years later.
10 years ago, on a beautiful summer day on Mount Lemmon, a hiker on the Aspen Trail dropped a cigarette.
The Aspen Fire started on June 17th, 2003, and it was reported at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon by our Lemon Rock lookout. It started out just on the other side of Marshall Peak there, and so within minutes we had resources on the way.
The fire was only a mile from the town of Summerhaven, so even though the winds were blowing away from the homes and businesses located there, residents were evacuated and firefighters prepared for the worst, which came the very next day.
And about 12:20 the wind shifted to the northeast towards Summerhaven, kicked up to about 60 to 65 miles per hour, and then you could see it came over this ridge here, and it came very quickly and moved right up to and around Summerhaven.
Phil Mack and his wife own the Mount Lemmon General Store and Gift Shop. He was in Summerhaven cooking for the fire crews when ash started to rain down on the town. He sprayed his business and attached home with water and then left.
Well, you saw the smoke growing and growing, the ashes coming down. It was something I'd never experienced and hopefully never will again. Not knowing at the time we left, I suspected it would burn down, but you're always hopeful. Maybe it didn't.
While the fire actually burned up around Summerhaven, there was so much turbulence that a lot of the embers from the fire itself were actually igniting the different buildings in Summerhaven.
It was a total loss. It burnt to the ground. There was absolutely nothing left. Even coins that were in a collection were just small black dots. So were hard to distinguish even what kind of a coin it was. It was a very hot fire.
Wildfires are common and even natural in Arizona's Sky Islands, but for a century the attitude was to put out every fire. Only in the past few decades have scientists begun to understand the ecological role of fire.
Historically, when fire burned through more often, it kept the understory open, and the trees did not burn. The fire burned through the grass and really didn't carry up into the crown of the trees. The fire scientists think of all vegetation as fuel. And as brush gets thicker, as vegetation gets thicker, a fire scientist thinks of that as the fuel load increasing, which is the amount of fuel on the land. And historically, what we saw was fire burned through the mountains frequently, through the forest and grasslands, but it burned primarily in the grass. And grass is a very fine fuel. It burns quickly and not that hot.
This is part of our fuels treatment area. We're doing fuels treatments in the form of thinning, different places on Mount Lemmon, and this is one area because we've got our organization camps up here. So the point of this project is to maintain some open canopy space with the intention of slowing the momentum of a wildfire, and this is exactly what happened with the Aspen Fire.
But when the brush gets thicker, the fire can move up into the crown of the trees, which is what happened around Summerhaven.
This phenomenon of fire jumping ahead of itself is more common with big fires, with crown fire, where it literally creates its own climate above that fire. The heat is so great, it's creating convective lifting, and it's carrying burning embers, burning leaves, entire burning branches will be carried up in these air columns, and then they can be carried miles in some cases.
Crown fires may create what is called a mosaic effect, where some buildings burn and others do not. While some sections of Summerhaven were untouched, Phil Mack's store unfortunately burned down, along with 322 residences, 7 businesses, and 4 outbuildings. Crown fires can also sterilize the soil, killing off the very seeds needed to regrow the pine forests, and they can cause problems for watersheds.
You know, what was going to be coming down through these watersheds was going to be a lot of ash, thick material, very poor water quality. So in Sabino Canyon, we have an endangered fish, or I think it's a listed fish, called the Gila chub. And while the fire was burning up here, we worked with Arizona Game and Fish Department to shock the creek and remove a lot of those chub and put them in 3 different facilities where they stayed for a while. After the fire was over and the system flushed, and it took several years for us to get to the point where we could put the fish back in.
The upper elevations of Mount Lemmon are considered ecologically unique, so it was not possible to get trees from just anywhere to replace those killed in the Aspen Fire.
There had been a highway project here, and we were growing plants from seed that we collected, so we were able to pull a lot of those plants that were ground ready and start putting them in places where the watershed needed protection.
In some places, the trees are regrowing. In others, the minor plants that used to live more sparsely under the trees are taking over, changing the way the landscape looks and the creatures that live there. In some areas, this poses a problem. In others, a possibility for survival.
The bighorn need open field of view to protect themselves from predators, especially mountain lions. And as the brush gets thick, the bighorn become very vulnerable to being killed by lions. And either they leave or they're killed. And that's what happened here in the Catalinas. The Aspen Fire burned across these hills right behind us down to pretty low elevations here. And it really opened up the woodlands and the brush on the hillsides. And the Game and Fish Department now thinks that the habitat is suitable for bighorn again, and they're considering reintroducing some bighorn into the mountains here.
The Aspen Fire lasted an entire month. It blew down the mountainside nearly to the base and back up again, scorching almost 85,000 acres along the way. Dignitaries such as Senator John McCain and President George W. Bush visited the area to assess the damage.
We need to thin our forests in America.
10 years later, it is still possible to see scars from the Aspen Fire. At the summit in Summerhaven, residents have returned and rebuilt what they lost.
People ask, aren't you worried about burning down again? And no, I'm really not. I don't think in our lifetime or my kids' lifetime there'll be a fire that big in the village of Summerhaven, because that fire cleaned it up. It's much healthier fire-wise right now. We are now a fire-wise community, which we didn't used to be.
As we mentioned earlier, the fire season in Arizona is well underway. Michael Chihak sat down with Kristy Lund of the Coronado National Forest and Michelle Fidler of the U.S. Park Service to discuss this year's prospects for wildland fires.
Kristy Lund, Fire Staff Officer with the Coronado National Forest. Michelle Fidler, Fire Education Officer with the National Park Service. Thanks for being with me.
Thank you for having us.
I want to ask both of you, starting with you, Ms. Lund, what this year's fire season is expected to be like in the wake of a season last year in which we saw the 3rd largest acreage ever burned nationally.
Well, as you recall, that acres burned last year was indeed nationally, predominantly further north in Arizona. We actually had a comparatively mild season. And right now our indices for fire danger are pretty close to what they were last year. Given that, we're always prepared for the worst. We've not had any sort of cutbacks in resources. We're adequately staffed, and we always have people available to come help us from other parts of the country. And we already have some folks in from Montana doing that already.
And Ms. Fidler, how do you see it from the Park Service's point of view? Similar to last year?
Yes, I think we're starting to see increased significant fire potential here in the Southwest, starting in the southeast portion of the state. I'm expected to expand statewide as we continue into June.
And Ms. Lund, are there specific parts of the state, Ms. Fidler mentions the southeastern part of Arizona, are there other parts of the state specifically that are more volatile or more vulnerable right now than others?
Predominantly it has to do with the fuels. And down here in the southeast, we dry out earliest. We're furthest south. With the long-term drought, of course, a lot of our fuels are dry, but we have a lot of grass, so that dries very quickly, and a lot of brush. So anywhere where you're in the grass and the brush right now, it's far drier than it is up into the timbered areas.
Ms. Fidler, let's talk about the grasslands a little bit. Buffalo grass, a big problem here in the Sonoran Desert. How does that contribute to the fire danger?
Our fire danger is increased in the deserts today more so than it has been historically. Historically, the desert vegetation was very sparse and spread out. The buffalo grass is a challenge because it's a continuous fuel load that fills in all those areas. The other challenge with buffalo grass is it tends to grow in more disturbed areas along roadsides, closer to what we call the wildland-urban interface, where the wildlands bump up next to the homes and the communities. And so it's bringing that wildland fire problem into towns along the area here. And so that's why we strongly encourage folks to get to know what buffalo grass is, how to identify it, and learn how to pull or spray it to help protect their own homes.
Ms. Lund, you mentioned that resources are not an issue now, but we're hearing nationally that with the federal budget cuts there have been problems. Do you anticipate that if it's a really bad season, you may run into those kinds of issues?
I don't anticipate that at all, partly because, as I said, we are fully staffed. We've had a very steady budget the last couple of years, and we're fully staffed according to our preparedness plans. Also, the Southwest tends to come into fire season before other areas do in the West. So I mentioned earlier we have crews coming in from Montana already. We have an agreement with them to where we can work back and forth across those lines, and it works very well because they still have snow there when we're in fire season here. So we already have those folks coming in, but overarchingly, because we start burning first, we have the luxury, if you want to call it that, of having more resources available to us because no one else has much activity. And we can also pull from resources nationally, as we did, for example, in 2011.
The crews from Montana coming in, Ms. Lund, what are they doing? Are they just working on prep work?
They are. We're in preparedness season, so that's partly finishing up some fuels projects, going out doing campground patrols in more of the developed areas, talking to the public about being safe with their campfires, and simply being out patrolling for fires and being ready for immediate suppression.
And I want to ask both of you as a last question, although the answer to this might seem obvious, what would you remind the public about our responsibility to help prevent forest fires?
Well, I'll steal Michelle's line here and say, know before you go. When people go out to recreate on public lands, we have websites to where you can get information on fire restrictions there. We ask everyone to please be assured that they are allowed to have campfires in the first place, and if they are allowed to have campfires, please be responsible with the fires and make sure that they are not only out, but dead out, cold dead out.
And Ms. Fidler, anything to add to that?
Again, we just encourage folks to do your part. Don't let a wildfire start. You don't want to be the cause of a wildfire. And so, again, like Kristy said, know before you go, check on the current conditions, but also just be aware, fireworks are never allowed on public lands here in Arizona. If you have a campfire, you want to make sure you drown, stir, and repeat until it's cold to the touch.
And that's AZ Week for this week. Michael Chihak will return for our show next week. I'm Christopher Conover. Thanks for joining us.
Production of Arizona Week is made possible in parts by a grant from the Stonewall Foundation and by the members of Arizona Public Media. Thank you for your continued support.